Greece is located in southeastern Europe, the meeting point of three seas: the Ionian Sea to the west, the Mediterranean Sea to the south, and Aegean Sea to the east. The Greek archipelago takes up to one-fourth of the country's total coastline, offering a highly diversified landscape of both sand and pebble beaches, sheltered bays and coves, coastline caves with steep rocks and dark sand, typical of volcanic soil and coastal wetlands. Greece enjoys one of Europe's warmest climates, with April, May, September, and October being ideal times to visit. Away from beaches, Greece is also renowned for its archaeological sites, of which Delphi, Knossos, the Acropolis, and Olympia are the most popular. Ancient Greek literature refers to literature written in the Greek language until the 4th century CE. This period of Greek literature stretches from Homer until the 4th century CE, the rise of Alexander the Great. Ancient Greek literature, together with the Hebrew Bible, provides the foundation for all of Western literature. The Greeks made important contributions to philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Literature and theater was an important aspect of Greek culture and influenced modern drama. The Greeks were known for their sophisticated sculpture and architecture. Greek culture influenced the Roman Empire and many other civilizations, and it continues to influence modern cultures of today. In addition to history and philosophy, ancient Greek literature is famous for its epic and lyric poetry, as well as its drama, both tragedy and comedy. Ancient Greek tragedy remains among the highest literary and cultural achievements in Western literature. Most of the epic poetry and tragedy has its roots in ancient Greek religion and Greek mythology. Greek mythology has exercised an extensive and profound knowledge on the culture, arts, and literature of Western civilization. Though the ancient Greek religions based upon these tales have long since faded into obscurity, the Greek myths remain alive and vibrant, largely through the epic poetry and tragedies of ancient Greek literature, and are rich sources for Western fiction, poetry, film, and visual art. At the beginning of Greek literature stand the two monumental works of Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey. While the Iliad is purely a work of tragedy, the Odyssey is a mixture of both tragedy and comedy. Of the literature of ancient Greece, only a relatively small proportion survives, yet it remains important, not only because much of its supreme quality, but also because until the mid-19th century, the greater part of the literature of the Western world was produced by writers who were familiar with the Greek tradition. There are some notable writers and their works in the Greek literature. Hippocrates is considered the father of medicine. The most famous of his is the Hippocratic Oath, which describes doctoral ethics. Doctors of today still take parts of this oath. Hippocrates was the first to have described a series of illnesses, and thus he contributed to medicine. Plato. He was a student of Socrates. The latter never wrote of his own. However, his philosophy became known through the works of Plato. Plato was very influenced by his master's thinking. The most famous of Plato's work were the Republic and the Symposium. Aristotle. He was was one of Plato's students and the first to doubt him. Only 47 of his works have survived. Aristotle is considered the last of the Greek philosophers and was the tutor of Alexander the Great. He founded logic as a science. Archimedes, he was a mathematician, an engineer, an inventor, and an astronomer. He is the inventor of the Archimedes screw, a mechanism for moving water still used today. The phrase Eureka, or I have found it, is attributed to him. He is also known to have calculated the value of pi. Lastly, Homer. He is mainly known for Iliad and Odyssey, the most famous epic poems. The Iliad is the oldest work of Western literature. In ancient Greece, people considered themselves uneducated if they had not read both the Iliad and the Odyssey. What is odd is that there is no knowledge of Homer's life to such an extent that historians dispute his existence.
The story of Pyramus and Thisbe by Ovid. Next door to each other, in the brick-walled city built by Semiramis, lived a boy and girl. Pyramus, a most handsome fellow. Thisbe, loveliest of all those eastern girls. Their nearness made them acquainted, and love grew in time, so that they would have married, but their parents forbade it. Their parents could not keep them from being in love. Their nods and gestures showed it. You know how fire suppressed burns all the fiercer. There was a chink in the wall between the houses, a flaw the careless builder had never noticed, nor anyone else, for many years, detected. But the lovers found it. Love is a finger, always. Used it to talk through, and the loving whispers went back and forth in safety. They would stand one on each side, listening for each other, happy if each could hear the other's breathing, and then they would scold the wall.
You envious barrier, why get in our way? Would it be too much to ask you to open wide for an embrace, or even permit us room to kiss in? Still, we are grateful. We owe you something, we admit. At least, you let us talk together.
But their talking was futile. Rather, and when evening came, they would say good night, and given the good night kisses that never reached the other. The next morning came, and the fires of night burned out, and sunshine dried the night's frost, and Pyramus and Thisbe met at the usual place, and first, in whispers, complained and came high time to a decision. That night, when all was quiet, they would fool their guardians or try to come outdoors, run away from home, and even leave the city, and not to miss each other as they wandered in the wide fields. Where should they meet? At Minos too, they supposed was best. There was a tree there, a mulberry tree, loaded with snow-white berries, near a cool spring. The plan was good. The daylight was very slow in going, but at last the sun went down into the waves, as always, and the night rose, as always, from those waters. And Thisbe opened her door, so sly, so cunning. There was no creaking of the hinge, and no one saw her go through the darkness. And she came, veiled to the tomb of Ninus, sat there waiting under the shadow of the mulberry tree. Love made her bold, but suddenly here came something. A lioness, her jaws a crimson froth, with the blood of cows, fresh slain, came there for water. And far off through the moonlight, Thisbe saw her and ran, all scared, to hide herself in a cave, and dropped her veil as she ran. The lioness, having quenched her thirst, came back to the woods, and saw the girl's light veil, and mangled it and mouthed it with bloody jaws. Pyramus, coming there too late, saw tracks in the dust, turned pale and paler, seeing the bloody veil. One night he cried,
We'll kill two lovers, and one of them, most surely, deserve a longer life. It is all my fault. I am the murderer. Poor girl. I told you to come here in the night, to all this terror, and was not here before you, to protect you. Come, tear my flesh, devour my guilty body. Come, lions, all of you, whose lairs lie hidden under this rock. I am acting like a coward, praying for death. Chih. Drink my blood too.
he cries, and draws his sword, and plunges it into his body, and dying, draws it out, warm from the wound. As he lay there on the ground, the spouting blood leaped high, just as a pipe sends water spurting through a small hissing opening, when broken with a flaw in the leaf, and all the air sprinkled the fruit of the tree from that red spray turned crimson, and the roots, soaked with the blood, dyed all the berries the same dark hue. Thisbe came out of hiding, still frightened, but a little fearful also, to disappoint her lover. She kept looking not only with her eyes, but all her heart, eager to tell him of those terrible dangers, about her own escape. She recognized the place, the shape of the tree, but there was something strange or peculiar in the berry's color. Could this be right? And then she saw a quiver of limbs on bloody ground, and started backward, paler than waxwood, shivering as water steers when a little breeze ruffles the surface. It was not long before she knew her lover, and tore her hair, and beat her innocent bosom with her little fists, embraced the well-loved body, filling the wounds with tears, and kissed the lips cold in his dying.
Oh, my Pyramus, what evil fortune takes you from me? Pyramus, answer me. Your dearest Thisbe is calling you. Pyramus, listen, leave your hand.
He heard the name of Thisbe, and he lifted his eyes, with the weight of death heavy upon them, and saw her face, and closed his eyes. And Thisbe saw her own veil, and saw the ivory scabbard, with no sword in it, and understood.
Poor boy. So it was in your own hand, your love that took your life away. I too have a brave hand for this one thing. I too have love enough, and this will give me strength. For the last one, I will follow you in death. Be called the cousin comrade of your dying. Death was the only one could keep you from me. Death shall not keep you from me. Wretched parents of Pyramus and Thisbe, listen to us. Listen to both our prayers. Do not begrudge us, whom death has joined, lying at last together in the same tree. And you, O tree, now shading the body of one, and very soon shudder the bodies of two. Keep in remembrance always the sign of our death, the dark and harmful cold.
She spoke, and fitting the sword point at her breast, fell forward on the blade, still warm and drinking her lover's blood. Her prayers touched